everyone and welcome to another episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. My name as always is Jamie Hughes and today I'm going to be giving you my review of The Death of Stalin. Now if you want to keep up to date with all my latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always with my videos, this review may include spoilers, so you have now been warned. The Death of Stalin is Armando Iannucci at his finest. For those of you that are a fan of the thick of it, the way I can describe this movie is the Rise of the Nutters episode times like a million. It's ridiculous. It's so mental, and I think what makes this film even more mentaler, that's not good grammar. That's not good grammar. But what makes this film even more crazy is that this film is based on essentially real events, and that is really quite sad because I was going into this movie expecting it to be like a sort of laugh-a-minute comedy as with Iannucci's other movies, but this film really makes you think, and it's actually really quite dark and quite sad in points, and I wouldn't really even describe this movie as a comedy, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it actually works really well as it changes your perception of maybe what film should be, because I actually felt quite a little bit sad leaving this film. But like the atrocities that go on are just like so bad, and like you can't actually believe that these are real, even though they are, and it's just crazy. So to bring the tone up just a little bit, there are some really great performances in this movie and some really great comedic performances, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is the best cast and probably best overall acted movie of the year so far, and probably will be, you know, of the year in general. Steve Buscemi is great in this movie, a really great performance from him, and there were a lot of surprises in there for me. Simon Russell Beale, I've not seen him in a lot, but his portrayal of Beria was absolutely brilliant, and I will be shocked if he's not nominated for at least a BAFTA for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor, because the way he portrayed Beria was terrifying, just horrifying, but really creepy and comedic at the same time. I don't know why I was saying that. He was just brilliant. But for me, the two best performances in this movie by a country mile are Jeffrey Tambor and Jason Isaacs. And I can't remember their character names because there's too many characters in this movie, but Jeffrey Tambor is the bumbling deputy, and just it was almost like he had a lot of physical humour in this movie, and he had a lot of facial humour, and it was just absolutely brilliant. And that complemented really well with Jason Isaacs' character, who was the war general, who was just so intimidating, and he was only in it for a short amount of time, and I was so gutted because he was, like, for me, he was the best character by far. I absolutely loved him from the moment he came on screen. But his Jason Isaacs' performance in this movie was just, oh my god, it was so funny and just so intimidating but brilliant. And the best moment of the movie for me does involve these two guys, Jeffrey Tambor and Jason Isaacs, and that is the line. I've mentioned it, I've repeated it so many times. Jeffrey Tambor like has his hair dyed and he goes, "Did Coco Chanel take a shit on your head?" And it was just probably the funniest line of the movie for me. I just absolutely loved every single performance in this movie. But Jason Isaacs, you stole my heart. So there's not really too much to say about the story on this one because it is based on real life events in a sense, but this film and this story and this whole movie in general is oozing with loads of Iannucci-isms, and that is what really made this film great, is just those little quick one-liners that came out of nowhere. Like there's a bit where Stalin's son's getting taken away and he goes, "You're not a human, you're a testicle." It was just really reminiscent of the thick of it, and there was little shades of Alan Partridge in there as well. I say these all, you could tell, had a lot of influence on this movie because they're all Iannucci products, but it was just a really it was a really fun but harrowing movie at the same time. But I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. Now there is one thing that I had issue with, and it's kind of takes away from my previous point of how great the performances were in this movie. It was just that there were, you know, those performances were great, but there were a lot of characters to keep up with, and I do think a few of them fell by the wayside. I think they could have trimmed down the characters a little bit. And I know this is based on real life and the graphic novel, and all those characters are present, but it just kind of felt like they were there for being their sake. I think the way that you could have got around that has definitely made this movie into a TV series, because you could have had a lot of more character development with each kind of individual character, but it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of this movie. I still very much enjoyed it. It's a really great film, and it's a real twist on what I actually thought like this movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be a laugh-a-minute comedy, and it wasn't. It was really, really harrowing in points, which for me is definitely a positive, because, like, as I said earlier on, it changed the perception of what I was going in thinking this movie was going to be. But I will say, I don't think this movie is going to be for everybody. I went with a couple of friends, they didn't enjoy it. They're not fans of Iannucci, so I don't think they really got the humour. But, you know, I just don't think it's for everybody, but I definitely enjoyed it. And before I go, there's one thing I forgot to mention earlier on. I've just remembered it now. And the best gag, and nobody's mentioned this from what I've seen in other people's reviews, but the best gag in this movie is the fact that this film is based in Russia, but not one character speaks Russian or has a Russian accent. And it's just one of those really underplayed gags that you don't really think about, because it's just there and it's supposed to be normal. But by far, like, the best gag of this movie is that not one of these people was Russian. It was just brilliant. So I really enjoyed The Death of Stalin for reasons other than what I thought I was going to, as I've said. So if you have seen The Death of Stalin, let me know what you thought about it, as always, down in those comments below. And if you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like, and why not subscribe, because you'd be helping me out massively. And I will see you in the very next episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. Ta-ra!